Let me ask you a really, really simple question. And this is one of the big things. Are you getting enough leads, but not enough sales? And the reason I bring this up is people inquire, they book their calls, and they say things like, sounds good, you guys are great, send me over an email, and then nothing happens. I'm going to break down on here today a little bit more. The problem we've got is simply this. People love to hesitate. They delay, they'll disappear. Now, if that sounds familiar, this video, we're going to break down on here what you can do, and more importantly, what you can do today to actually go off and fix this. Because the problem is very rarely your product. It's actually very rarely going to be your price. And it'll actually be almost never that people don't want what it is that you're offering. The problem actually comes down to is your sales conversions. And the reason I bring this up, people are not guiding people, and this is what you're doing now, to a clear decision. It's actually quite foggy. And what most people believe is there's this magical thing about say the magical words. But actually, I want you to realize it is just not true. Yeah, your words matter. Of course they do. But actually, most people think just by getting just better scripts, just better closes, better ways to overcome objections. But sales isn't just that. Now, those things can all matter, but sales works when a conversation follows a way that a human brain actually wants to make decisions. And that's what I want to break down for you guys today. I work with business owners, I work with salespeople, I work with sales teams. And the whole point about this is selling through conversations. Now, whether that's doing it through phone calls, whether that's phoning it through Zoom calls, whether that's through your face-to-face meetings, all of it's completely relevant. Now, that might be that you're a solar company, for example. You could be a trade organization. You could be an agency. You could be a coach. You could be a consultant. It might just be the fact that you sell high-ticketed services. Different industries, but it's the same conversion problem. And once you understand what we're about to show you today, you're going to start to see exactly where those deals are leaking and why the prospects are not moving forward. And I want to introduce you to a bit of a framework. So we're going to sort of write this down as we go, just try and make it easier. And the whole point behind this is it's the framework's called convert. So we have got and the whole idea behind this convert framework is to break down in an easy to remember and implement system and plan that you can actually use within your business itself. Might be easy to use one of these pens. So let's break it down with one of these, because this is going to make life a little bit easier. So we've got CONVERT. Now, every single letter that we've got on here is a decision that drives sales and drives their conversations. So even if one of these stages is missing or weak, the conversions are immediately going to drop. So let's start with the first letter. So C, and this is our first one in here, is for context. Context is lost in so many areas, and it answers one simple question in the prospect's mind. And it should be, well, why are we having this conversation right now, today? Because most people actually skip this step entirely. They start focusing on product pushing. You've got to stop being a pusher. People start jumping in and explaining what it is they do, how it works, and why they're different. And let's be completely frank, no one cares. Like literally, no one cares. So what we want to do is think about this. If we think about where the prospect is now, that's going to be the current situation that they're in. Now, your role at the start of a sales conversation is to help them clearly understand what is actually happening in their world right now. So that might be what is working, what's not working, what's getting worse, and what is actually costing them to stay the same. And that's one of the biggest parts here, because until the problem feels real, it is not going to matter. And the big thing here, context creates relevance. Now, without context, everything feels more optional. And this moves us into O. And O stands for outcome. Now, the reason we're talking about this is we want to start thinking about this of what is the desired outcome. Now, the reason we're writing this down here so clearly is because I want it to be so easy for you to understand, but this is not overly complicated. You got to remember, people don't buy services, they buy movement. So they want to move away from stress and they want to move towards clarity. They want to move away from uncertainty and they want to start moving towards more control. And it's so important to realize that your job is to help the prospect see clearly where they want to get to. Because if they already know how to get to here, that would be their now. And their new one would be different. So we want to work this out, not in technical language, but in emotional language. We want to understand what changes when this problem is fixed and it actually moves to getting to that outcome. What makes it easier? What will disappear? If a prospect cannot emotionally see the destination, they are not going to commit to the journey that's actually going to get them there. And this is what takes us into the N. And that's for your narrative. This is one of the most important stages of the framework. And the reason being, if you think about what a narrative actually is, the narrative is the story that the prospect tells themselves about why they can't move forward, why this is them now, they haven't already achieved this outcome. And this is where all the objections and all the hurdles and all the barriers live. So next to that arrow, we want to write a few common words. So what could actually be here as a barrier? So this could end up being some simple stuff. That can be money. It could be timing. What else could it be? Maybe it's the partner. Classic. Maybe it's the risk. Maybe it's the past experience. All of this stuff will have a massive impact on what we're actually talking about. So guys, we want to realize that these here, they're not actually real problems. These are primarily the symptoms of uncertainty. Just dropped my lid. And if you do not help guide the narrative, the prospect will automatically fill the gap themselves. So I want you to remember this. Either you fill that gap or they will do it for you. And when people are unsure, they default to the safest option. They end up doing nothing. They stay exactly where they are. Now, your role, and I want you to remember this, is not to argue with people. Your role is not to try and convince people. It's actually to reframe what the objection means, because most objections are not actually resistance. They're actually requests, if you want, for more clarity about where they are now, what's going to happen, and what this journey is going to entail. And this is where we bring into that next stage for V, which stands for the value clarity. This is the primary where most sales conversations actually fall apart. And the reason we talk about this, we want to really be able to think of the value here. Because actually, when someone says something's expensive, what they're really saying is, I do not yet understand why this is worth it for me. And this is what you guys all need to start to realize. This is why we're putting all these videos out. It's because I want you to understand that the price objections are rarely about the money. They're more about confusion. So we want to be at the stage that we're actually helping them understand, because value is not something that you say your service is worth. Value is what the prospect understands that they get in return for purchasing. And you've got to remember this. When that value is unclear, price becomes a decision, not a value. So you've got to make sure that the value becomes so clear instead of making it a barrier to purchase. And that's where you've got to come into E. And this is the evidence. So now you've got to the stage, you've got your context, you've got your outcome, you've got your narrative, and the value has become clear. At this point, the brain is going to ask a question. Can I trust this journey? And this is why it's so important to think about the fact of, can they trust the journey? Because evidence makes fear dissipate a little bit more. And this is where stories, examples, logic, proof all come into play. You guys got to stop thinking purely about the hype, not thinking about the exaggeration. Just enough proof to make the prospect feel safe moving forward. This is what I want you to remember, though. The evidence does not sell. Evidence just removes a load of a doubt. And this is why you guys have to be at the stage of this part here. And this is why, because you haven't done the other side, can't sell. Oh my God, I can't spell today. So, responsibility shift. My God, I went to a responsibility shirt. So I want you to think about this. This is where high-level sales feels completely different. And this is one of the areas, as we're moving down this ladder, that if you don't do the first one, you're screwed. If you don't do the second one, you're screwed. And there are a lot of people who definitely don't do this part. Because where we want to feel is low-level salespeople really chase. They start to pressure people. They try and force people to make decisions. But where you look at a high-level salesperson, what they do is they actually return the responsibility back to the prospect. So we want to be at the stage that the responsibility lies within that person. And this is where the prospect realizes that not deciding is still a decision. And this is what I want you guys to realize. People are not, and this is where people get this wrong. A lot of people feel like they're on this road here and they're deciding to take a little dust track onto you. It's not what happens. What actually happens is they've hit a fork in the road and they've got to here. And now they're going to make a decision. Go with the old path or go with the new. Either way, they are making a decision to churn. It is not this path deciding to turn off or carrying on. No, you're at a fork in the road and you're deciding to either carry on with your old life or you're deciding to move to the new. But you have to remember that staying the same has a cost. And this type of thinking will make a massive difference to where you guys go next. And the great thing is, when that responsibility shifts, the resistance will automatically drop. Because people don't like being pushed, but they do like being in control of what is going on. And this is why then you need to be at the stage for your T, which is transition. This is where the conversation naturally moves forward. Transition is not a push. Transition is not pressure. It simply answers one major question. What is the next logical step? Now, when everything before this is clear, this next step feels completely obvious. It doesn't have force. It doesn't have awkwardness. It just has alignment. And that's the full framework. So let me ask you this. What is it at the moment that you are not doing? Is your context the best it could be? Is your outcome the best it could be? Is your narrative being explained the best it could be? Are you giving value clarity to the best it can be? Are you giving evidence in the best it can be? Are you giving responsibility shift in the best that it can be? Are you transitioning in the best that it can be? If you are not, you are missing out. The great news is when you realize that you are missing out, you can take action to move forward. Now, the reason this framework works is because it's following more human psychology. People don't want to be sold. They want to feel like they're actually understood. They want to get clarity. They want confidence in their decision. And this is why when a conversation follows a structure, selling becomes a byproduct, not a battle. And this is where I want you all to be thinking about. Understanding this framework intellectually is one thing, but using it consistently under pressure on real calls is actually another. And most people know what they should do. They simply do not execute it consistently to a high level. Now, if you don't know how to do this, if you're not sure how to do this, is when you need to get help. You guys can go to tuster.co.uk/workshop, get yourself a full, come along to the next live training. If you're a business owner, we'll help. Or you drop me a DM with training and we'll send you something over. Because the whole point here is if you want help implementing this properly into your business, into your calls, into your follow-up process, into your sales system, there's a link in this video, or you go to tusta.co.uk/workshop. No pressure, no hard sell. We just sit down for an hour and we give a breakdown on where you are now, what you're likely doing, where some of the problems are, and give you sort of a bit of a guide to actually move forward. And whether or not we ever work together, just remember this. Conversions do not come from simply saying more. They actually come from guiding in a better way. And this is why it is so important that you actually get this right. So, we're going to be dropping more of these videos around. I hope you found this useful. Come along, see how we can help, and I'll see you all soon.